What up, big dog?
Said nothing much, man.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I was just having you on the old Boomer Cast. Maybe talk about your what is it? Sooner Sports Daily? Is that what it is?
Yes, sir.
And you just like follow all the Sooner sports and
Yeah.
pretty much that's cool. And then you were talking to me last night about Lee Morris.
Yes, sir.
Man, that dude was a ball. He was a baller, man.
Yeah.
Like, man, there was a time like his last for like six catches in a row were a touchdown, dude. Like for
Oh yeah.
like
He
50 yards. He could fly, man, too.
yeah, from what I remember, I think he averaged in his career, he averaged maybe 20 yards a catch.
Oh, I believe it,
So,
man. I believe
yeah.
it. So you want to talk about Caleb Williams a little bit? I don't know. What's your
Yeah,
thoughts
sure.
on like on the portal or whatever? Just
So, on the Caleb Williams subject, I'm a little kind of in the middle. I mean, I see where everybody's frustrations come from as far as him running off to join Lincoln Riley, but I think Caleb would probably be the last person that wanted him to leave. He didn't want him to make that decision. He didn't ask him to do it. If it was Caleb's way, or if Caleb had his way, he would want him to stay, as would a lot of people. But I don't throw any shade his direction or any way or anything because when you look back on it, the reason that he came to Oklahoma was because of Riley, and so it doesn't surprise me one bit to see him go out there and join him. And we all kind of knew that was the case the day he entered. I think the only issue that I would have is just the fact that it took so long for us to get an announcement. It took almost a month. But just as far as the portal, I think it's a little. I don't know. It's kind of wild because for us as a fan base, like we're the ones that have benefited from it the most. But as we've obviously seen in the last month or two, we've lost a lot to it, and um, it's a touchy subject because everybody has a different reason. Some guys don't want to compete. Some guys maybe they were lied to, or of course you have this situation with a coaching change. But I think as far as losing Caleb Williams, it's just he's replaceable, but it's definitely a big loss. But I think when you bring on a guy like Dylan Gabriel, who has, he's been down the road before. I think he's played 3 seasons so far, 3.5 seasons of college football. He's got the experience, has the experience in the Levy system. I'm not going to say it's an upgrade, but it's better as far as the fact that he knows this offense already compared to Caleb Williams, where you have to learn a completely new system in a matter of months, which isn't easy for really any player to do, but especially a quarterback who has to know everybody's job. And Dylan already knows that system well. So, um, like I said, although it's terrible to see them got those guys go, I think what we got back is just it's just the fact that we reloaded. We're not rebuilding. We got some new blood in those positions, and we're still going to be fine. I mean, I don't think it's the end of the world just because he's no longer here. I mean, I'm going to continue to wish him the best of luck, and I hope he has some success out there. I mean, I hope that obviously I don't hope USC has success, but I hope he individually has some success. And I certainly think he will. I mean, I still think he could potentially maybe end his career winning a Heisman Trophy, but um, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, it's a different subject because you will have a crowd of people that they wish him well, and then there's a crowd of people that they're dead to him. So
yeah, I don't really
he's
understand the fans that are like throwing shade at him like they are.
yeah,
Uh, it's kind of wild because he's still a young man, like he's still a
yeah,
student athlete. He's not like a NFL quarterback, in a contract dispute or whatever with the owners. He's just trying to, and I'm sure there's other stuff going on in the background or whatever, but he's still a kid, and like I think I just don't want people to make him hate football because I know for
Oh yeah.
myself, man, I love football. It did so much for me when I played it, and just even now it does. And it would suck for just what a bunch of people say to make you think twice about what you're doing. For sure.
Yeah, and I know that that was a big thing. I mean, just as far as social media, people were already kind of on the, we moved on train when it came to before he even made a choice. I mean, there had been some whispers that OU got back into the mix, and you know, people had kind of already just they had really just already separated from him. They didn't care for him anymore. And I mean, there's certain situations like, you look at I think Caleb he's the one player that transferred that makes the most sense. When it comes to like, Latrell McCutcheon, for instance, that didn't really make sense
Yeah.
because he had been one of the more vocal players when the coaching staff left and was kind of all about, yeah, we'll be fine. We're gonna do this and do that next year.
Yeah.
And we all know, throughout the season they said what they said about or he and his family had their choice words for that defensive staff, that very same defensive staff at USC now. So
Exactly, man.
that was a situation that we looked at and it was like, okay, that's yeah. I mean, we say what we want about him, but when you look at Caleb Williams' situation, it's understandable at least. And it's the same with Mario Williams. I mean, Mario Williams came here because he wanted to play with Caleb. So
Yeah. Yeah, they those two work good in Lincoln Riley's system too, but really big day yesterday recruiting, man. We got that Halton kid from or flip from Oregon, and then Cavante Freeman from Michigan. Those are, man, those big time studs right there, man. And that
yeah,
Cavant or I mean the Halton kid, he was actually have you seen that clip of him playing tight end in high school?
yeah, I did. I just saw
Oh
that
man,
today.
he just
Yeah,
he's a really athletic guy, man. It's gonna be. I'm pretty excited for, especially on the defensive side of the ball, man. It's gonna be a lot more physical, and it seems like the a lot of more older players, are coming back around too. Get bring that culture back with Papa V there.
yeah, and I think that's what you want. I mean, you want to have guys around that know the place. They care about it. Kind of the issue we saw with the last regime was that these were a bunch of guys who pretty much, well, I say a bunch. I mean, the head coach was really a guy who didn't really care about the school and the alumni. I mean, you look at there were so many whispers as far as he would use the alumni just for recruiting. He wouldn't bring them around the program for you know
Right.
other little events and stuff. But um, you know, you kind of saw. I mean, when under him, you brought back Joe John Finley, Brian Odom, two former Sooners who came back. But now you look at it and the amount of not just players that have came back, but players that have been vocal on social
Mhm.
media about, even before Coach V got hired, they were all saying he needs to get the job. If he gets the job, we'll all back it up. And he's proving, his mission. He wants to get the former players involved in multiple ways, not just for recruiting. He wants them around, you know, obviously on the staff as we've seen. I mean, you bring back Curtis Lofton, who was
Mm.
one of the best linebackers we've ever had. And he was coached by Venables and developed by him. And he knows what to expect. I think one of his roles is actually player development. So he
Yep.
knows how to reach these guys and tell them he's going to do this with you, he's going to do that. He might cuss you out, you got to deal with it and stuff like that. And then, I mean, you got him, you got Josh Norman. He was an offensive guy, but he was here when Brent first got here in the 90s. Phil Oldholt coming back, he's going to be around to help the O line. I mean, it says something because it just shows you what it truly means when we talk about you talk about OU being a family, or you talk about OU DNA and all of that. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the true epitome of it, is bringing those guys back around the program and seeing how everybody's supportive of this hire, because there's no other hire out there you could have made
Mhm.
except for Brent Venables, where you would have seen the support and the love that he got from former players. Even the day that he had his ceremony, there were a lot of former players there. I mean, Roy Williams was there. Teddy Lehman obviously was there. Gabe Ikard. I mean, there were a lot of guys that really didn't even technically play for him. Like they didn't play under his system, but they were
Right.
around when he
Yeah.
was around. And they're saying the same thing. Like, yeah, we need his energy around here. We need that kind of mentality back. So that tells you something about him just as a person.
Yeah. I was talking with Rufus Alexander a couple
Yeah.
days ago, and he was telling me about he was actually going to be a Longhorn. Can you believe that? I didn't know that, but he was going to
I
actually
never
go to
knew.
Longhorn, and I mean Texas, and he was rooting for OSU to beat OU so Texas could go to the Big 12 title game. But he was saying that Coach V recruited him, and that Venables, like how he's able to pay attention to detail so well, like the little things, and that's really like a big difference between him and Riley. Like Riley was all about the skill positions, and like not about the dirty work, and that's where the championships are won, man, is in the trenches. And it just didn't seem like he cared too much about that part of the game.
Yeah, and Brett made a great point today in his press conference. He talked about how he's been to 8 national championships, and in each one
Yeah.
and not even just that, but from watching the national championship game a couple weeks ago, it was a perfect example of you don't win championships without having physicality and toughness
Mhm.
up front, whether it's on offense and defense. And he and Ted Roof both made statements as far as you can't win if you're not strong enough in the trenches, and that's kind of been an issue. I mean, not a big issue, but it's been somewhat of an issue. Like when with Oklahoma, we get to the playoffs and we're playing, for instance, LSU or Alabama, who
Mhm.
always has a first round pick on their D line, or
Mhm.
even Georgia. I mean, they killed us up front. I remember in that Orange Bowl against Alabama, we had the best offensive line in the country, and
Yep.
we played Alabama, and they were killing us in the first half of that game. And
Yep.
so that's why also when you bring back somebody like Jerry Schmidt, who's been around for the more physical, who's been around for the or who really created those physical, mentally tough teams
Mhm.
in throughout the 2000s and 2010s. So having him back is going to be huge. And then obviously you bring back BV and his mentality, and like even as he said, like when he was at Clemson, they've led the nation in tackles for loss and sacks uh
Mhm.
since then. So that,
Nice.
I mean, that tells you something. So um and they've talked about how they're going to be very multiple as far as their scheme and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But like the thing that you can see with BV being so adamant about the little things and the details is just looking at some of the support staff hires. Like these are roles that as fans we don't really care about because we're not affected by it. But for the players, they're
Yeah.
big, and like you don't really realize it because with Riley, you had maybe an offensive analyst, defensive analyst, and that was about it. You didn't have a lot. But when you look at some of these SEC schools like Bama, Georgia, Florida, for instance, they've done the same thing. They're hiring all types of positions. They're creating their own positions just for guys to be in the building. And that's something that you can even say as far as how big he is on the little things. You can definitely tell just from the things he says, because Brent can talk all day long, and he'll be able to teach these guys the way of not just football but life in every aspect. So I mean, there's many reasons why people can look at it sideways when we say we upgraded with the hire, but there's plenty of reasons why we're so excited about it, because we know Brent, we know how he was when he was first here, and seeing how he's changed. I mean,
Yeah.
same old.
Uh, yeah. You were talking about Schmitty there. Did you know that he's actually trained 6 Heisman Trophy winners, man? He's been
I did not
responsible
know
for
that.
6 Heisman's, man. That's insane, dude.
Yeah, tells you something.
Like it's like Danny Warfel, Tim Brown,
Mhm.
Baker, Kyler. There's a couple other guys I can't remember who, but that's a lot, man. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Um, but So like in the offense, like you said, Dylan Gabriel he had like 9,000 yards. That was in Levy's system too. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
What's the running back looking like? Is it they got that freshman Gavin Schwalk or something Schwalk,
So,
and then Marcus Major.
yeah.
That dude is a I I can't wait. I hope he gets some. He's got to get some carries this year. He didn't get used at all
Yeah.
last year, man. He's a stud, man. He's a stud.
Yeah. I think for running backs, you know, Eric Gray and Marcus Major are going to be the top dogs in that room. But I think when you talk about somebody like Gavin Sawchuk, he's a guy that can play from day one because
Nice.
he's got, you know, he's fast first and foremost, but then you put him through the off season. He'll be here up here in the summer, but when you put him through the off season, he's gonna get bigger. I think he weighs probably I think he's about 185, 190 right now. So he's gonna get bigger. And then for his speed, he's gonna be a beast in the future. And then uh Javante Barnes is another one. He's about the same size as Sawchuk. He's explosive. You know, and that's the other thing with Levy is that like Ole Miss, they led the SEC in rushing touchdowns this
Nice.
season. So Levy likes to run the ball. And yeah, like you said with Marcus Major, we didn't see that much of him, you know, towards the end of the season last year, and I'm not even sure why, but I think especially under a coach like Levy, you'll see him way more. I think he could very well end up being, you know, RB1, but you bring back Eric Gray, who has got a lot of areas to get better in, but in the moments that he had to shine, he made the most of them. But I think another thing about Levy is that going back to his Ole Miss days, I think that he had a lot of he would kind of rotate running backs. I think they would have like three different backs playing at once. So that's why I also say Gavin Sawchuk could be a guy that gets some burn early on. I'm not sure if they've talked about bringing a running back out of the portal, but I wouldn't be surprised if so. But yeah, I mean, just as far as the offense, I think the only position that I really look at, and I don't really know who's a for sure who the for sure the top dogs are going to be, is probably wide out. I mean, obviously Marvin Mims, Theo Weiss, but after that, I mean, you got Jalil Farouk to work with, you got Cody Jackson, you got uh, Jaden Gibson, Nick Anderson, who we just picked up or just got signed. I mean, there's a lot. I don't. There's not a lot of questions there, but at that position is not really a guy that you look at because even with Mims, it's like we all know how talented he is, but this year he led the team in receiving yards, but he was kind of a ghost compared to where
Yeah.
he was in
Yeah.
20. So, you know, Theo could have a big year if he stays healthy. This is kind of the year where we finally see him
Yeah.
live up to that 5-star ranking because he hasn't really gotten a chance to produce that much. Uh, Jalil Farouk should get a lot more time than he was getting last year, like this season.
That boy's bad, man. He's long and he's
Yeah,
fast. Like he's super. He could be exciting, man, for sure.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But I think even Levy may have said like there's not a lot he's going to change, but in the things that he will change, I think you'll see way more running the ball, and then a lot more RPO probably, which is a little bit of what we saw when Kyler Murray was here.
Yeah.
You'll see more of that with DG. So it's going to be a really interesting year because you're going to see something new on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, they got some really athletic guys coming on the offensive line too. That Jake
Oh
Taylor. Then yesterday was they picked up Gunnar Allen. He's like 6'3", 280, 79-inch wingspan, bud. That's
yeah,
insane.
you got him, Jacob Sexton from right down the road in Deer
Oh yeah,
Creek.
yeah, Sexton too, man.
Yeah, think there was another transfer guy. I can't remember his name, but he came from somewhere in Colorado. I mean,
Oh, nice.
I didn't mention McCade Matower, the transfer from Cal, and he's played.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's played maybe 4 seasons so far. So this would be his last season. He's got a lot of experience. I mean, that's the area on offense that I look at and say it has to improve the most. It's definitely the O-line, because just looking at last season, they weren't as physical as we're used to. Like, we've gotten so used to the O lines that we had in 2017 and 18, even 19, that were, they were walls. I mean, you couldn't get past them. But the last 2 seasons, we've had some issues there. So that's probably the only unit I really look at and say there has to be a lot of improvement, just as far as the entire team, but especially on offense.
Yeah, man. They did get pushed around quite a bit, quite a bit. But well, I guess I'm gonna go ahead and let you go, bud. I was actually made the mistake. I was like, man, I'm gonna go out here for my daily walk. It's cold as hell out there.
Oh,
I
yeah, man.
got like about 50 feet from my house. I was like, screw this, man. I turned around. I had to come back home, man. But I appreciate you stopping
Yeah,
by, man. You can just anytime you want to stop by, or maybe if you want me to stop by. but
mhm.
uh,
Yeah, I got you. Thanks for having me on, man. I really
oh yeah,
appreciate
bud,
it.
for real. Well, go
Yep.
Boomer sooner.
Boomer.
All right, bud. We'll see you later, man.